Okay, well, I thought we'd do a little show and tell today. Kind of give you a little bit of background. The Atlas lathe project that I'm working on right now is not my first Atlas machine. I've got a mill and a shaper. This is a mill sitting here, and this was redone. Oh, I went through this mill probably 12 or 13 years ago is my guess. I don't remember exactly what the time frame was, but completely stripped this mill out, went through, cleaned everything, realigned everything, gave it a paint job, and reassembled it. I used it for a couple of years after that fairly regularly, and then it's just kind of sat back in the corner and collected dust, and it's still awful dirty today. I got ambitious yesterday and started cleaning things up. This mill is pretty much original. It's an early mill. It's serial number 501, so it's the 501st one that came off of Atlas's production line. You look at the later mills, and they've got a different set of guards on the back. Both of those guards are a little bit different. This set of guards is a little more refined. They're a little more compact. And this was never set up with an overarm support. It does have the adapter for it here, or this was the way they were originally set up to accept an overarm support, but it does not. This was the early casting for these, and it does not is not drilled for an overarm support. So I have built some overarm supports. I've cast them at different times, and sold a few of those over the years. I built quite a few accessories for all three of the lathe, the mill, and the shaper for Atlas's line. Things like spindle nose covers, like that. That's one of my productions. Drawbars. Oh, all of these handles I produce now. Go back in, they're turned out of stainless. I do quite a few castings. I've done a few for this little mill, but I don't do a whole lot for those. I do some castings for the shapers primarily. But anyway, this little mill's a good little mill. Everything's complete on it. Everything works. The power feeds operate like they're supposed to. When I rebuilt it, I replaced the bearings, so it still runs fairly quietly. I see I do need to replace one of the belts on it. The motor to the countershaft belt is really well worn. But everything functions as it should on this mill. We've got power cross feeds, both directions. I do have examples of both kickouts. I've started working on patterns for them. But good little mill. I have a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of fun with it over the years. I'm going to kind of start going through it again. This one's got a Shumatech digital readout on it, which all three axes. I noticed when I started playing with this yesterday why I'd get an overflow error occasionally, which usually indicates we've got a dirty scales or bad connection someplace. So I'll have to investigate that a little bit. It's not doing exactly like it's supposed to, although now it seems to be functioning fine. But anyway, as time permits, I'll finish cleaning this up, and I actually have some work to do with this mill. I do have a set of castings for another mill, which I will eventually rebuild. It will be set up as a production machine. I got the production cross slides and the production levers for it. So that'll be a project for down the road. So we've got that, and we'll go over and take a look at the little shaper. I think you've seen it in some of the other videos sitting in the background, but we'll take a quick look. Well, here's a picture of the little Atlas shaper. This is a 7B model, which the B is the later model. It's got the foot underneath it. I don't know if that shows up. Yeah, I guess we can see the foot down there. It gives it extra support of the tables. The original Model 7s did not have that support foot, and they gave a little more flex in the table. They weren't quite as stable as these were, quite as rigid as these were. They're still a light-duty machine. There again, bought this machine years and years ago. I've run it some, not a tremendous amount. It primarily sits in the corner, although I do have a project coming up for it. I've got some gears that I want to build, so I'll be cleaning it up and getting it in functional condition. I'm not going to run it right now because I haven't lubed it up or cleaned any of the ways or anything off. This machine, when I bought it, was in the same condition on this little stand. Eventually I'll redo the stand, but it was a nice little stand. Got some drawers underneath and everything, but we'll eventually redo it to where it's a little more original looking type of thing. I built the stand for underneath the little milling machine, and it's a copy of the original Atlas wood stand, and I'll probably do the same thing under this. We'll see. This machine had been damaged at one time. I know it had fallen over because the smaller guard on the left-hand side of the machine was missing, and the oil drip tray was cracked. Well, it was broken. The support arm was broken off of it. It's been repaired. I repaired it. The pulley needs to be replaced. Whoever had had it before, when it had fallen over, I think it probably damaged this pulley, and they've actually built a wooden pulley on the outside for the high speed, which I never use, but they did a very nice job of it. So eventually I'll replace that pulley when I rebuild this machine. Otherwise, it works as it should. There again, the power crossfeed works fine. These were noted for cracking out right through there and damaging the power crossfeed. They'd be run to the end of the table stops with that still engaged, and it would crack that housing. So that's been a weak point on them. The early models were cast iron, but they replaced that cast iron housing with the Zamac housing that's on most of the later ones, and a lot of them were broken. So eventually this will be a rebuild project. We'll completely go through it and restore it. But anyway, another nice little Atlas machine. Accessory wise, this is the index head that is designed for the shaper. It mounts on the shaper table. And there again, that's another one that will eventually be reproduced. I've already got the patterns built for that, so we'll probably start casting them this next year. Rotary tables, I've got, this is a shaper rotary table, and this is the rotary table that goes on the mill. The only difference between the both the vices that go on the milling machine and the shaper, the only differences are the base themselves. The bodies of the vices are the same, the bodies of the rotary tables are the same, but the shaper accessories have 4 bolt holes to bolt onto the top of the table, whereas the milling machine only has 2. They've got one on this side and one on this side. A lot of the parts for on the Atlas line is interchangeable amongst each other. The bearings for the milling machine are the same bearings that are in the Atlas 6-inch lathes. And there's a lot of interchangeability there because when Atlas designed these machines, or when Atlas started building these machines, they didn't want to have to build any more parts than were absolutely necessary, so a lot of those parts were interchangeable. The indexing heads, or the indexing accessory for on the milling machine, I believe is a takeoff from the tailstock ram and the tailstock components from the Atlas 6-inch lathe. There's a few little subtle differences in them, but the main machining of them is the same parts. The only difference I see between the tailstock on the index head and the tailstock on the lathe is for the 6-inch lathe is the 6-inch lathe has index marks on the end of the housing. Accessories for the lathe we talked about before. I've got quite a few accessories for there. Production cross slides to go on there. You've already seen the production tailstock that's on there. I do have the boring table that fits on a standard cross slide in place of the compound for on the Atlas 10-inch lathe. You'll see those as time goes on as we start working those projects through the winter. I'm still playing with the airplane project, but I've been kind of excited to work on this little Atlas lathe here lately, so we'll see how far we can get on it. If you find these videos helpful, you might hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you like them. If you hit the bell notification, you'll know when I turn out a new video. And we're also loading these videos to our website at hillsgun.com. And leave any comments, suggestions you've got for me below. Thanks for taking the time to watch.